video, I would like to talk to you about your starter. I'm going to feed mine in a minute so you can see what I do. But there's many and different ways that people deal with their starters. This is what I do. So I keep my starter in a bowl with a fitted lid. I like a bowl because it's easier to manage. And I only ever keep about 100 grams of starter. This is all you need. You don't need great batches and great jars of starter in your fridge. It will end up getting slow and sluggish. You'll have to feed it endless amounts of flour, and it's just not necessary. You don't need huge amounts of starter. So I've just got 100 grams in here. When it's not in use, in between uses, you keep it in the fridge. If you're going to use your starter daily, you can keep it on the counter, but if it's very warm in your kitchen, I would still think about putting it in your fridge. When I want to feed it, I take it from my fridge, let it come to room temperature, and then feed it. You can feed your starter from cold, but it will be stiffer to mix, and it will take longer to become active. So the whole purpose of this with your starter is you always keep a base amount, feed it when you want to use it, feed it based on how much you will need for your dough, take that out when it's ready and active, and then return it to its base amount and back into the fridge. So there's never any waste, and there's a nice ongoing process. But also one of the other reasons for keeping this smaller amount is always feed all of your starter. If you're keeping a huge amount and you're taking out little portions, that bit that's left is just going to become inactive. So by keeping a smaller amount, you can feed your whole starter every time, which means every time you give it a workout. So you make it stronger with every feed. So I hope that's all useful. As always, there's lots more tips and info on my site. I'm now going to change the aspect so that you can see me feeding it. So this is my little star. Of course, you have to choose a name too. So here we go. Here's my starter. Like I said, she's been out, coming up to room temperature. So she's already got some activity because she's a happy, strong little thing, my starter. And as you stir, you can get the aroma. So all starters are different. They all smell different. Mine smells like paint. Yours will smell different depending on what flour you use and where you live. So there isn't a single smell they need to have. So I'm stirring with clean stainless steel, which is absolutely fine. Like I said, I keep mine in a bowl because I think it's easier to manage. So we're on the scales. I'm going to put the scales to 0. I'm going to feed my starter with Cotswold flour, strong white bread flour. A good strong flour in your starter works really well. And I can use tap water where I live. It doesn't mean that you can. If you're unsure, boil and cool some water. Do not use distilled water because your starter won't respond in the same way. So we're on the scales, we're down to 0. I'm going to put in 30 grams of flour, 30 grams of water. If you go over a bit, just make sure you put an even amount. So if you put 32 grams of flour, put 32 grams of water. And by feeding it equal weights, it's the best possible way to keep it maintained well. And this means it's what we would call 100% hydration because it's equal weights of flour and water. Having said that, if your starter starts to get thin because it's been warm, give it extra flour. So don't worry about the hydration situation. Give it what it needs. So in with the water. And then we're going to stir. I like this bit where you can start to see it coming together. Okay, it does not need to be super smooth. You don't need to whisk it. A few lumps is good. It's all going to be food for your starter. So I always have a spoon nearby as well. Get everything, every little bit off, because I also want to scrape round the bowl, get everything in there. If you've got bits of dried starter up the side of your bowl, stir that all in as well, because it's all extra power. Okay, there's no need to change your bowl. You don't need to change it with every use. The only possible time you need to change your bowl or jar is if it's gone mouldy, in which case I'm afraid your starter is no longer with us. So don't worry about a slightly crusty bowl. Don't be tempted to clean it every time, because you're just going to disturb it. So here we are. Make sure you put utensils straight into some cold water or wipe them off, because this stuff dries like concrete. If you put it in hot water or into your dishwasher, it will merely cook it on. So that is my starter fed. I'm going to put her lid on. Leave her for a few hours and see what she does. And every starter is different. It's all about your starter and the temperature in the room. So whenever people say to me, how long will it take before it's ready to use? There is no definitive answer. It all depends on your starter and your room temperature. So the best thing to do is to watch and take notes, because then you'll know for the future. Your starter will have its own personality, just like it has its own smell. And the key is to find what works for you in your kitchen. So make notes of what time you fed it, how much you fed it, and what the room temperature is, so that you can also make a note of how long it takes to become active. And you can build a picture across the year of how that changes. So there we go, my starter is fed. We'll come and have a look at her later. So here she is. This is now 4 hours later. And look, you can see the texture, you can see the growth. As you give her a shake, you can see the activity. So this starter is now ready to use. So I'm going to give her a stir so you can hear all the bubbles through her. Look at that. Snap, crackle and pop. And what I like to look for is, if I stir and then let her settle for a bit, is to see how quickly the bubbles come back. So you can see the activity in this bowl. You can actually watch it happening. This is a very happy, lively starter. So your starter is now ready to use. So what I would do now is to take out the 50 grams I want for my loaf, and then put the rest of the starter back in the fridge, lid firmly on, protect it in the fridge so it's not contaminated by anything else, and then leave her until the next time I want to use her. So that's how I feed my. This is now 2 minutes later, and I just wanted to get a close-up just to show you. Look at all the texture in there. This is what we love, this is what we're looking for, and it's all of that that gives the life to your dough, and lifts it up and gives it all of its fabulous flavour. This is a happy, happy starter.